Alright, today I'm going to talk about ADHD because a lot of people get it wrong. It's not just, ooh, shiny, or, wow, I can't focus at all. Because that's part of it, but that's not all of it. So firstly, I'm going to talk about hyperfixations, and that's a short obsession with something. So like, maybe 2 weeks or a few months. I've had 3 that I've gone through at least 3 times each, those being, and they fall into a lot of subcategories. So those are like cars, which mainly is just the Dodge Challenger, you know. Oh, look at that. Let's see. All right, Challenger. I can't reach it. But Challenger, and then the Demon. And I just got all these. You know, I figured I might as well just get them all the Dodge cars. But the Demon and the Challenger are my favorite. You know, that blue one's my favorite blue, So, Challenger, that was an obsession. And then firearms, you know, that was something. And then instruments, which are saxophones. Mostly saxophones, a lot of wind instruments. I also had a period where I liked guitar. You know, I can't play anything but a saxophone. But I had a little obsession with guitar. See, there's a Thunderbird bass, my favorite looking bass. You know, it's just a lot of stuff. And then about 52% of it is just miscellaneous, like, oh, anything. Basically, what brings on hyperfixation would be, really for me, it's just, I see something like, oh, cool, then I look it up, and that's basically, I start thinking about it a lot, and okay, here's an example. So when you have a hyperfixation, that'll, I guess, for lack of a better word, predominate your thinking, and it'll influence what you do. For example, when I was in 8th grade, for NHD, I did National History Day. I did a thing on Ronald McNair. You know, he died in the Challenger. Not the Challenger, gosh. No, it was the Challenger. He died in... You can tell I didn't learn much from it, gosh. He died in the Challenger shuttle explosion. And, you know, he had a saxophone. So, well, my little self, I went to my IGP, or whatever you call it, to pick out the classes I would do in high school next year. And I picked band. And then I completely forgot about it until I got to high school, and I was like, they're like, oh, you're going in band. I'm like, what? So, that's where I got a saxophone. And then, you know, saxophone was a pretty big part of, you know, it predominates what you're going to buy, what you're going to think about, what you're going to spend your time doing. For example, I spent my time looking at saxophones. Like, I bought a bunch of mouthpieces and stuff, and reeds, neck straps, looked at videos, you know. But that was that. And then I do firearms, which is also a thing where they're all a cycle, you know, because I'd have to see something and be like, hey, that's interesting, and then that would spur it, and I'd get back into it again. And then cars, I just remembered, hey, remember when I used to be really into the Dodge Challenger? And so now I'm back at that. And you can see a lot of different stuff. So, but it'll influence what you do and how you spend your time. So, like, you could buy something, and then you're like, oops, I didn't know. It happened to me. In about 3rd grade, I got some birthday money, or some Christmas money, and I spent it on a bunch of little Pokemon plushes. Then by the time they arrived, I was like, wait, did I like this? And it was really stupid, and I regretted. It was the dumbest Pokemon. Like, I'm not going to get into it. But that's that. And then the miscellaneous part is just whatever I like, really. Like, it could be just South Carolina as a whole. Ducks, dogs, whatever I'm into at a moment. So that's about like half of the space of hyperfixations that I've had. And just random, hey, this is cool, let's look at that for a week. And then, so you look at that, you don't do your schoolwork. But, you know, I'm going on a little, can see how ADHD I am right now. I'm going on a whole little thing about it. Off on a tangent. I don't know what to talk about next. So talk about the hyperfixations and how basically once you do something, that'll be predominantly what you're thinking of, and then you'll regret it, or you won't regret it. But it's basically, so you have, think about it like this: everyone has their own interest, right? But I feel like for a lot of people with ADHD, or at least me, one of those will be above the others for a certain amount of time, and then it'll just fade, and you'll still be interested in it, but not as much. Like, I used to like, man, there was this bass saxophone that went up to North Carolina to buy. I was gonna put myself into debt for like $8,000, which I don't have that. I was gonna go on a payment plan, just use my McDonald's money for it, but I ended up getting a tenor, which I think I overpaid for, definitely, because the guys who play a tenor now, they're a year younger than me. They said they paid like $700 for theirs, which, I mean, I paid $1,300 for mine, so, but what can you do? Alright, so talk about hyperfixations. I should have wrote out a script, but I've talked for so long, I'm not gonna stop the video. Well, I guess I'll just say about what people think. Okay, so the next part of ADHD would be what people think it is versus what it really is. A lot of people, I feel like ADHD is sort of like asthma, for being portrayed in like TV shows and stuff. You can make fun of people for it. I don't get. I used to. I think I still have it, but I haven't had an asthma attack in a while. But I don't get how they just like make fun of it or something. With ADHD, there's different kinds. If you didn't know, there's inattentive, hyperactive. I just read the book like a month ago about the types of ADHD. That's another thing with it, is your ADHD makes you pretty forgetful. And, you know, there's mixes of the types of ADHD. So it's not just, ooh, a squirrel, let me look at that instead of doing my schoolwork. But that's part of it sometimes. But basically, it's ADHD can be controlled, you know, with medications, and I mean, that's what I take. I take medications for it. Okay, I'm gonna post this on YouTube, but I can't make myself look bad. I've talked for 8 minutes and 16 seconds, so I'm not gonna restart. But this is probably why I should have wrote a script. All right. Well, I had everything planned out, and then I just came in here ready to make a video, and I forgot half of it. So I talked about what people think and what it is. Okay, so there's another part, sort of like hyperfixation, but not really. It's called hyperfocus, which I don't think I haven't touched on that. And so what that is basically where someone with ADHD, they'll get really into something, but not like as an obsession, as in this is what I have to do. So like, it could be schoolwork, it could be, for me, just looking at Wikipedia for anything, like really anything, states, stones, Greek gods, you know, anything, ducks, dogs, guns, of course guns and cars, but just anything where they're really into it, really in their zone, and they're, you know, you can just flip it out and get what you need to get done. And then some people can actually like control it. And I saw this one anecdotal thing where a girl would just, for lack of a better word, initiate her hyperfocus, and with that she would get all her schoolwork done. I can't do that. For me, it's more like I'm on Wikipedia looking at the army, and oops, I've wasted all my time looking at Wikipedia. And then school's out for the day, then I go to work the next day. So that's a whole cycle of, I might have run out of stuff to talk about. So I talked about the hyperfixations, which are these obsessions where, I guess I'll recap. The hyperfixations are just a short, but really, really strong obsession with something. Sometimes you'll buy something and then later you'll regret it, which is what's happened to me. Then you've got what people think it is, which is ooh shiny, and it's really a lot of it is pretty hard to focus sometimes, but it's not just like that little hyperactive squirrel kid. Oh, actually, let me go off on something else. Did you know caffeine doesn't work for ADHD? Caffeine will actually calm you down because it's a stimulant, like medications. Like, for example, dexmethylphenidate, which is what I take, that's a stimulant, and I'm pretty sure it's in the same class as caffeine. So I took an energy drink and I fell asleep, which that's a cool power that I can just drink an iced coffee before bed because I like the taste. But, you know, what can you do? So we talked about that. And then hyperfocus, where you're really getting your zone. I think that's about it. So, hope you enjoyed it. I mean, you probably didn't because I'm just talking really random. That's the end of the video.